All right, what's up, guys? VV back with another video. And in today's video, guys, we got a pretty important topic to go over. We got a pretty important topic to talk about in which color should you choose in the One Piece TCG. A better question might be, what do the colors do, or what do the colors represent? What can I expect from them? And we're going to be talking about that in today's video. So this video is, of course, geared more towards the newer players in the game. However, and in the same note, this will not act as a tutorial on how to play the One Piece TCG. I will have a link in the comment section of this video for any completely brand new players to check out so that you know how to play the game. I will be using terms in this video that I expect you to already know as a new beginner player. And with that in mind, if you're a totally new player, check out the tutorial first. I'll have it linked in the comment section below. Do yourself a favor and check that out first so you're not getting lost by the terms I'm using in this video. I will be using terms that are very beginner friendly, but if you don't know the game at all, if you've never played it and you've not seen a tutorial, you'll probably be completely lost. Okay, with that in mind, for some of the more veteran players out there who want to watch the video, by all means, please help me out in the comment section. If I miss anything, just put it down there. And to the newer players, if there's something you didn't understand, or if I said something too quickly and you just need some more explanation, just put it down in the comment section below and we'll talk about it down there. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into this topic, guys. Let's get into this video. We have a lot to talk about, and I do not want this video to run as long as my normal videos. I want this to be a very beginner-friendly style of video. All right, with that in mind, let's get into it. We're going to talk about first how there are 6 colors in the One Piece TCG. There's red, green, blue, purple, black, and yellow. This little color wheel that we're looking at is at the bottom of every single card in the game. When the game first came out, it was red, green, blue, purple, black, and yellow. Or excuse me, when the game first came out, it was red, green, blue, and purple, and then black and yellow were added after that. OP01 was the 4 original colors. OP02, they added black, and OP03, they added yellow. So we are going to go in that same order as we go through this video, red all the way to yellow, clockwise. So first up is, of course, red, and notice at the very bottom right here, we have that color wheel. So red is a color that deals with power manipulation. Okay, it deals with buffing your characters and debuffing your opponent's characters. Another thing to look for in the red card pool is rush cards. These are cards that have a special effect. You know, they have the effect of rush. It is on the card. Notice this character does not have it, but we will look at characters who do. It is an effect that's printed on the card that says rush, and that means that they can attack the turn that they come into play. Now, typically you cannot do that. Normally you cannot do that with a character, but any character that has rush on it, you can attack right away. And then red also has a fair amount of Dawn sharing or Dawn play where they can move Dawn around very freely. And we'll talk about that more as we get into it as well. So each color, I have 4 slides prepared. We're going to go over each one. Red might be my slowest color to talk about, but I will have all the colors mentioned in the general description of the video, so you can just skip around to whatever color you want to get into. Okay, but like I said, I will probably spend a little more time than usual on red just to kind of set the tone for the rest of the colors. So the second slide of each color is going to be the leaders. Now, it's not every leader in the game for this color, but in this case, we're going to look at a few leaders, mainly Zoro over here on the far left. Pause this and read any of these effects you want to look at and, analyze more thoroughly, but I'm going to mainly talk about Zoro and Dragon for the red color leaders. Now for Zoro, he is a Dawn ×1 your turn effect. So you attach 1 Dawn card. Remember guys, Dawn is the resource in this game, right? You'll attach 1 Dawn to him, and then for the rest of your turn, all of your characters will gain plus 1,000 power. Okay, power's at the top right of each card, right guys? So that is very powerful. You're getting a lot of value in that way. And that has to do with the buffing aspect of red. Now over to the Monkey D. Dragon here, guys, check this out. Activate main once per turn. Give up to 2 total of your currently given Dawn cards to one of your characters. So remember what Dawn cards do. The tutorial should explain it. It gives plus 1,000 power when it's attached to your characters or leader. Well, if you can give 2 of your currently given Dawn cards to one of your other characters, that's very powerful, right? You'll attach 2 to your leader or character, and attack for the plus 2,000 power, and then this leader will allow you to recycle that Dawn and give it to another character to attack for another plus 2,000 power. So that's kind of what red does. And then when it comes to the searchers, red is known for having pretty generic searchers, though, you know, things do change over the course of the game. But red has some very generic searcher types, like Nami here, Izo, and Bello Betty. Notice the names are down here at the bottom for those who are not aware. Now, Nami, Izo, and Bello Betty are all built pretty much the exact same way. So I'm going to read one of them in particular so we kind of know what's going on. So notice they're all 1 cost, 2,000 power, 1,000 counter, and then they all have this top 5 on play search. That will change as we go over the video. You'll see what's going on. But for red, excuse me, you will look at the top 5 cards of your deck and then reveal up to 1 Straw Hat Crew type card. What are the types? Those are down here under the name of each card. And then you'll grab a card other than Nami that has a Straw Hat Crew type and add it to your hand. Then you'll place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. Now, each one of these searchers does the same thing, but for their respective type. It's Whitebeard Pirates for Izo. It's Revolutionary Army for Bello Betty. Excuse me. All right, and that is, most colors have searchers like this. However, I think you'll see as we get through the video, I feel like each color does have a very specific, unique style of searcher. And we'll look at that as we get through each color. And these types were chosen for a reason. When within the red color pool, there are quite a few Straw Hat Crew characters, Land of Wano and Whitebeard Pirates type, and then Revolutionary Army type for red. Now, that does not mean that red is the only color with these types. They're not. But I just wanted to point out that currently, at the time of me recording this video, there is a very large representation of these specific types in the red color pool, and that's important, right? When you're doing these top 5 searches, you want a lot of relevant targets. Now, the last slide of red, I want to go over some very prime examples of what red can do. Over on the far left here, of course, we have Luffy. He is a 5 cost. Remember, the cost is in the top left, right? 6,000 power, rush character. Look what it says. This character can attack on the turn in which it is played. Remember, we talked about that earlier. And then, if you attach 2 Dawn to this character, whenever you attack, your opponent can activate. Your opponent cannot activate blocker during this battle. Blocker is another keyword in the game that allows you to stop your opponent's attacks, hitting the target they want, and you can change it to the blocker instead. Okay, and then over here, excuse me, we have Ace. This is a 7 cost, 7,000 power character. And this card I really wanted to choose because notice what he does. Whenever you play this card, give up to 2 of your opponent's characters minus 3,000 power. Remember, we talked about buffs and debuffs. This character can give up to 2 of your opponent's characters minus 3,000 power. And it also has a second part of this effect, right? So, and that's during this turn, of course. The minus 3,000 power is not permanent. It lasts for the remainder of the turn. But then, if your leader type includes Whitebeard Pirates, this character also gains Rush during this turn. So this can be a very, very powerful card in the right deck. Last but not least, we will talk about Edward Newgate over here on the far right. This is a 9 cost, 10,000 power character. Just so everyone is aware, for the newer players, 10 is the largest amount of Dawn you can have in the game. So a 9 cost character is a very large character. And at the same time, 12,000 power is the most we've ever seen in this game, so 10,000 power is just barely under the largest power we've seen so far. And look what this character does, guys. Remember, it's always about the power manipulation. This character, whenever you play it, up to 1 of your leaders gains plus 2,000 power until the start of your next turn. So it's making your leader more powerful for an entire, until the start of your next turn. And that's a very big deal. So now your leader is harder to attack into. Then you cannot add life cards to your hand using your own effects during this turn. That has to do with the Whitebeard leader itself, not super relevant to what we're talking about. Now, this last effect down here, check this out. If you attach 2 Dawn to this character, whenever you attack, you can KO up to 1. KO means to destroy, right? You can KO up to 1 of your opponent's characters with 3,000 power or less. So again, it's always about power with the red cards. That's a big, big theme. One more thing I want to mention before we move on is notice how this card also had the same kind of effect, the same flavor of effect where you're KOing a character or destroying a character based off of their power level. Okay, so very, very important to know within the red cards. Okay, so that's red. Now let's go ahead and go over to green. What does green do? Green is all about status manipulation, resting and standing characters. That's when I say status, I'm actually referring to rested characters versus active characters. So in the game of One Piece, there are two ways to have your characters, right? They can be active, like what you see right here, or they can be rested, where you turn the card sideways, where you just flip it clockwise by, I think, 90 degrees, and then it will be clockwise, okay? So that's very important to know. This is the active, the way that the card looks right now, and then if you were to turn the card clockwise 90 degrees, where it's sideways, that is rested. Well, green deals a lot with turning your cards rested or active, and that's what I call status manipulation. Like, what state is the card in? Well, this card is currently active. Okay, green also has to do with stunning characters or keeping them locked down, and also it has a little bit to do with tempo as well. Notice this card on the left here, this Zoro card. Look at what it does. When you attack, once per turn, you can pay 1 Dawn. That's what that symbol 1 means. 2 means you pay 2 Dawn. But you pay 1 Dawn when attacking once per turn, and you can set this character as active, so that way he can attack again, guys. Okay, for the newer players, whenever you attack, you have to turn your card sideways, and he becomes rested, and he's attacking. Well, this card can stand up when you attack, so that he can attack again directly after that. Okay, and then also activate main once per turn, pay 2. You can set him as active a 3rd time, right? You know, so he comes into play, or you know, he becomes active at the beginning of your turn. If he was already in play, he'll be active, and then you attack with him, he becomes active by paying 1, and then you could pay 2 more to make him active for the 3rd time of the turn. So that's very, very powerful, allowing him to attack 3 times. No character has this effect in the game other than this card, but this effect is very much a good representation of what green cards can do. Okay, so with that in mind, let's see some of the leaders. Now, the 2 main leaders I want to look at is actually Bonnie and Kinemon. You can read Uda if you want to by pausing and filming it, but the main effect I want to look at here is on Bonnie. So notice this. On your opponent's attack, so whenever your opponent goes to attack you, once per turn, you can pay 1 and rest up to one of your opponent's leader or character cards. Resting the card means it won't be able to attack for the turn. So when I say stun, that's really what I mean, is like locking down your opponent's character or leader. Green has a lot to do with that. It has a lot to do with control. Speaking of that word control, that is something I should have mentioned in the red cards. Red is very much more based around the aggressive cards with the rush cards. Green has a little bit more control to it. However, it also can get pretty mid-range, mid-rangey to talk to, I know that's TCG terms. There's like the rock, paper, scissors, right? There's, mid-range, control, and aggro. Green is more of the mid-range color that branches into control. Red is more aggro, and it can kind of do other things as well. But for Kinemon over here, notice what this does. When I talk about tempo, this is what I'm referring to. Activate main once per turn. If you have 1 or less characters, the next time you play a Land of Wano type character card with a cost of 3 or more from your hand, during this turn, the cost will be reduced by 1. So just know this. You can read this a few times to understand it, but the idea is you're going to be able to play out a character for cheaper than what it should be, which allows you to generate extra tempo. Okay, very, very important. Let's keep going. Excuse me. So notice we're back to the searchers. Now, green's searchers are very different than what we saw from red. Let's start off with Bonnie over here. This card, it costs 1. It only has 1,000 power. Remember, the red ones had 2,000 power. This has a 1K counter just like the others. But look at this. In order to use this searcher, you actually have to pay 1 every time to do the search. Now, the red ones were on play. The green ones here that we're looking at are activate main. Activate main means I can do this every single main that this character survives. And look at this. You pay 1, rest this character, and you'll do a top 5 search for whatever the types are that are included. Now with the red cards, it's an on-play effect, so it only happens 1 time. Whereas a lot of these green cards get extra activations. Look at all these. Nami has an on-play and when attacking, pay 1 to do a top 3 search for a film card other than Nami. Now, Momonosuke and Joribani are very special in the sense that they can actually search for themselves, which is very rare when it comes to search cards. Excuse me. Now, Momonosuke, he's a 1-cost, 0 power, 1,000 counter card, but notice what he can do. He can activate main like Bonnie to pay 1, or activate main and pay 1 and rest this character, and you can do a top 5 search for any Land of Wano type card and add it to your hand. Then put the rest of the bottom of your deck in any order, so he can even search himself up, which is really cool for green. Let's keep going. Some examples of green. When it comes to tempo, these cards on the left here are very, very powerful tempo cards in the game currently. Don't worry about the cost and power just yet. Or not even at all. That's not really what we need to focus on. Let's focus on the effects here. Now Trafalgar Law is a blocker, so he can protect your other characters when he's active. But look at the on play. On play, you may return one character to your hand and then play up to one character card with a cost of 3 or less from your hand. So understand what's going on there. You can return a 1-cost character and play out a 3-cost character, right? That's some potential. Now, by the way, you can return any cost character, but you can only play a 3 or less from your hand with this effect. Now, Cavendish is tempo in a different way. Law is cheating cards into play with his effect, whereas, and when I say cheating, he's not literally cheating. Do understand that for the newer players? I don't mean he's literally cheating. I mean he's getting cards into play in a way they normally would not be able to get into play, okay, through his effect. Now with Cavendish, look at this. Whenever you play him or whenever you attack, if your leader has the Supernova type, which the types are down here at the bottom, right? And you don't have another Cavendish character, you can set up to 2 of your Dawn cards as active. Dawn is the resources in this game, right? So that will act as having 2 additional Dawn to play with for the turn. So that is really powerful when it comes to tempo. Now let's go over here to Doflamingo for the last one here. Look at this effect. This has to do with the stunning I was talking about. On play, up to a total of 3 of your opponent's rested leader and character cards will not become active, okay? So they will not get to attack the next turn. It's locking them down. That is what you can expect from cards in green, from some of the cards. Very, very strong effects. Now, moving over to blue, this has to do with deck manipulation, drawing and milling cards. There is an alternate win condition within the blue card pool for this leader named Nami. And then you can also bounce and control with this deck. So if you look at things very generically, red has a lot to do with aggro, green typically has more to do with mid-range, and blue has a lot to do with control. So those kind of seem to be the main themes within those colors as well for the original design. Now things have strayed since then. With colors getting more and more identity, there's way more different directions you can build each color. So just understand that straight up front. Okay, so for blue, we're dealing with deck manipulation. What do I mean by that? We're going to see that when we get to the searchers. But then it also has plenty of drawing and milling effects where you draw cards and trash cards. And then bouncing cards back to hand or to the bottom of the deck is very, very strong in blue. It is very, I don't want to say it's unique to blue, but blue specializes in bouncing cards back to hand. Excuse me. And because of that, being able to draw probably the best color to draw with is blue currently, and being able to bounce very well contributes to a lot of control. So let's go ahead and check out some of the leaders. The main one I want to look at is Doflamingo over here. Look at this. If you attach 2 Dawn to him and attack and pay 1, you can reveal 1 card from the top of your deck, and if that card is a 7 Warlords of the Sea type character card with a cost of 4 or less, you may play that card rested. Okay, that seemed like a mouthful, right? But don't worry. We're going to talk more about this later when we get to the searchers, so keep that in your mind. Like, how are we going to know that the top card of our deck is going to be this special kind of card? Hang on to that thought. Let me go over to Boa real quick, and then we'll move on to the searchers. So Boa has the ability, on your turn, once per turn, this effect can be activated when a character is removed from the field by your effect. If you have 5 or less cards in your hand, draw a card. So you see what's going on. Whenever you bounce a character, okay, you can draw a card if you have 5 or less cards in your hand. So you see how blue has a lot to do with drawing cards, but, and you can pause and read Ivankov if you want to as well, but we're not going to focus on that. But remember what we were saying with Doflamingo. Well, how is he going to set cards up so that he can actually get a benefit from this effect? Well, the searcher types within blue have a lot to do with setting your top 5 cards. Look at this. Perona. On play, look at 5 cards from the top of your deck and place them at the top or bottom of your deck in any order. Okay, well now we can set cards up to use our leader's effect very effectively. Same thing with Duval. He is a blocker that has a top 3 search ability. Perona could look at the top 5, but Duval can only look at the top 3, but is also a blocker. Okay, that was a 1 cost and a 2 cost. But now look at the 3 cost card over here, another Doflamingo card. Look at this. It's a blocker and can do a top 5 search. So this card is very powerful for setting up your leader effects like with Doflamingo. Okay, so this has a lot to do. This color has a lot to do with control and a lot to do with even like memorization like you see here, where you're setting up the top cards of your deck. But it has a lot of card draw built in. It has a lot of tools to complement that kind of play style. Excuse me. Now, when it comes to types, I should have also mentioned with green had a lot to do with supernovas, and it had a lot to do with film. Blue has a lot to do with Thriller Bark. Well, actually, not so much Thriller Bark as much as Seven Warlords of the Sea. And let me go back to this. It has, I should just say that. When it comes to blue, Seven Warlords of the Sea is actually just the main major theme. There is a little bit of Impel Down. There is a little bit of Animal Kingdom Pirates. There's a lot of stuff mixed all over the place. But currently, at the time we're recording this video, the Seven Warlords of the Sea is like the major theme within blue. Okay, and I'll try to do a review before we in the video when we get to the end. Okay, last but not least, let's look at some examples of blue. Notice the card on the far right. Let's check this one out first. This is a 10 cost, 12,000 power, biggest character in the game currently. Like, you know, that stat line. There are more characters than just Kaido that have this stat line, but that is the largest stat line in the game currently. Look at this on play. Draw 4 cards if your opponent has 3 or less life cards. Okay, remember what I said about bouncing cards? Look at what Mihawk can do. On play, place up to 1 character with a cost of 7 or less at the bottom of the owner's deck. So that is hard removal. Okay, very, very powerful. And then last but not least, look at this. Remember how we were talking about setting cards in life, or setting cards in our deck? On play, reveal 1 card from the top of your deck and play up to 1 character card with a cost of 2. Then place the rest at the top or bottom of your deck. So what it's saying, let me translate it for some of the newer players, you're going to reveal the top card of your deck. If it costs 2, you could play the card right away. And how are you going to know how to do that? With these searchers. Okay, very, very strong synergy there, but it does require quite a bit of skill to do properly. Okay, let's move on to purple. Purple has a lot to do with dawn manipulation, ramping, and reduction, and then versatility, and I would consider it as like guile. Just this idea of like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. There's a lot of sacrifice when it comes to purple. For example, let's look at this card on the left here. Look at this Gear 5 Luffy. 10 cost, 12,000 power, very big card. And look at this effect, guys. This effect is extremely powerful. It says on play, Dawn -10. Well, what does that mean? What does Dawn -10 mean? Because 10 is the most Dawn we can have in the game currently, right? Well, Dawn -10 means you return all of your Dawn cards to your Dawn deck. You go back to 0. Okay, well, what does this effect do? It must be pretty strong, right? Well, yes, it is. Place all of your characters except this character at the bottom of your deck in any order, then take an extra turn after this one. Very powerful, right? Let's go ahead and pick up the pace. Excuse me. So with purple, you're manipulating your Dawn, your resources. Some cards will ramp Dawn, and some cards will cause you to go backwards in Dawn. You know, you're ramping all this Dawn. What do you do with it? Well, you're going to do extremely powerful effects like this by reducing your Dawn. Purple has a lot of versatility, and it can do a lot of things. Okay, some of the leaders associated is Monkey D. Luffy. This has an activate main once per turn. You may add 1 card from the top of your life cards to your hand. Remember I talked about sacrifice, ambition. You may add 1 card from the top of your life cards to your hand, and then if you have 0 or 3 or more Dawn cards in your field, add up to 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and set it as active. I know that was confusing for new players. Just understand this. After your second turn, or excuse me, starting on your second turn, you can't do it on your first turn. On your second turn, you're going to be able to take a life card, okay? You only start with 5 life with this leader. You're going to lose 1 life to ramp a Dawn card. Remember what we were talking about? Remember what we were talking about with the ramping Dawn, okay, and the Dawn manipulation. Now, Kaido here, look at this effect, guys. Activate main once per turn, Dawn -7. You're going to return 7 Dawn cards to your deck, but look what it does. Trash up to 1 of your opponent's life cards. So a lot of, you're sacrificing all your Dawn to do these extremely powerful effects. Okay, let's keep going. Now with purple, one thing I noticed when looking for searchers and types, I did see quite a bit of Germa 66 and Vinsmoke family stuff. Excuse me. A lot of 4 Emperor stuff and a lot of Animal Kingdom Pirate stuff. Now understand, some of the best searchers I saw in purple were actually event searchers. These are not the characters we were looking at before, are they? These are cards in the game called events. And notice what they do. This one here, it costs 1, and then it has activate main. If your leader has the Animal Kingdom Pirates or Big Mom Pirates type, you can do a top 5 search for an Animal Kingdom Pirates or Big Mom Pirates type card. Okay? For Germa 66, it's the same thing. Top 5 search for Germa 66 cards, or excuse me, for Germa type cards. And then lastly, we have, when you're at sea, you can fight against pirates. Now, this is a 1 cost top 3 search, but look at what it can look for. it can look for Straw Hat Crew cards, Kid Pirate cards, or Heart Pirates cards and add one to your hand. So very powerful effects here. Okay, excuse me. Now, when looking at some of the stronger purple cards, these are really good examples. Notice what this card does. It's a 4-cost, 1,000 power card called Bon Carré, and it has on play, add up to 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and set it as active. Okay, so this allows you to ramp your Dawn and get to your resources faster than your opponent. So that effect is very, very powerful. The other effect is not as relevant. Let's just keep going. The next one here is Reiju. Look at this. If the number of Dawn cards on your field is equal to or less than the number on your opponent's side of the field, and you have 5 or less cards in your hand, draw 2 cards. That's a very powerful effect. Remember how I said purple is very versatile, right? It can kind of dip into all the different color pools because of how it deals with Dawn. Okay, that's a big theme within purple, is you're sacrificing your Dawn so that you can have access to other colors' actions, right? Like drawing 2 cards would typically be a blue interaction, okay? But with this character, because it has to do with Dawn, you can actually draw 2 cards with a purple character. So very good stuff there. Hopefully that made sense. I know that was a little clumsy. If you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please put them down in the comment section below. Last but not least, we will look at Kaido here. This is a 10-cost, 12,000 power, massive character, right? That's the biggest stat line in the game currently. On play, you can return 6 Dawn cards to your Dawn deck, and if your leader has the Animal Kingdom Pirates type, KO all characters other than this character. So this acts as a board clear. You destroy all the characters on the field except this 10-cost 12K, and it's going to cost you 6 Dawn. So really good stuff there. Okay, let's keep going. Now we're on the color black. Black has to do with cost manipulation. It has a lot to do with prevention and KO. Like, it's funny, it has KO prevention and lots of ways to KO your opponent. So it kind of doubles over in that way. And it has a lot to do with comboing and recursion. So cost manipulation, what is that? Remember, at the top left of every single character card, there's a cost. This character, Kuzan here, costs 10. But look at what it does. If you play it out on your turn, all of your opponent's characters will have -5 to their cost. And look at this. On play, KO or destroy up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 0. So you see the theme of what black is doing. It is comboing your cost reduction with ways to KO characters. Okay, KO based off of their cost. So there's a lot of comboing and control aspects within black. Okay, let's go ahead and check out some of them. First up, and there's one other thing that I should have mentioned more, is recursion. What do I mean by recursion? Within the black card pool, you have a lot of ways of recycling your cards from the trash. Okay, whatever's in your trash, you actually have a way to bring it back to the field. In some of the decks within black, and we'll talk about that in a little bit when we get to Thriller Bark. But other than that, it has a lot of prevention, which we'll look at. Ways to KO and ways to combo your KO with cost reduction, and ways to bring things back from the trash. Okay, now with that in mind, we're actually gonna look at Lucci, and then we're gonna look at the Gecko Moria. Pause if you want to check out Smoker, but I'm gonna mainly focus on Lucci. So Lucci is over here on the right. Notice this leader. Whenever you attack with it, you may trash 2 cards from the top of your deck. Okay, so you're filling up your trash. You're dealing with your trash with the color black quite a bit. And then you're going to give up to one of your opponent's characters -1 cost during this turn. So again, remember, you're trying to combo your cost reduction with ways to KO based off of cost. That's a major theme within black. One more thing I want to mention over here is with Gecko Moria. Look at this effect. Dawn ×1, when attacking, pay 2. You may trash 1 card from your hand. Remember, trash, we're trashing cards. You're going to trash 2 more cards from the top of your deck and play up to 1 Thriller Bark type character. Notice Thriller Bark is down here at the bottom right. Up to 1 Thriller Bark Pirates type character card with a cost of 4 or less from your trash. You're going to be able to kind of cheat a card into play from your trash with this effect. And again, it's not cheating, it's just how the card was intended to go. It goes against what you can normally do. All right, and that's a major theme within black. And because of that, the searchers and types all have to do with that. Look at these cards here, guys. Let me zoom in like this. I'm going to read Spandam and Sindri and move over to brand new. Notice this card. On play, if you're excuse me, if your leader type includes CP, look at 3 cards from the top of your deck. Only 3 cards. Well, why is it only letting us look at 3 when a lot of the effects are letting us look at 5? Well, look what it does. Reveal up to 1 card with a type including CP other than Spandam and add it to your hand. Then, look at this, trash the rest. Excuse me. So when it comes to a lot of the searchers in the black card pool, they are putting cards into your trash so that you can use them later. So even though you were probably able to grab one card from the search to add to your hand, the other two are going to your trash so you can actually use them later. So there's a lot of utility in that. Now moving over to the other side here, we have Sindri and Brand New. Look at what Sindri does. This is a 1-cost card. It's also a 2K counter. I won't go into too much detail there, but just know that's very powerful. It has on play, if your leader has the Thrillerbark Pirates type, trash 5 cards from the top of your deck. So that's directly helping your leader's interactions, right? Same thing with Brand New with the Navy cards. On play, look at 3 cards from the top of your deck and reveal up to 1 Navy type card other than Brand New and add it to your hand, then trash the rest. So you're trashing cards with the black colored pool, and then you're going to be able to get those back later in the game with other effects. In fact, I should have, I was going to say I have cards on here that show that. I wish I had put a card in here that shows the prevention effects. Like there are cards in the game that allow you to cheat the ability to be KO'd. But I guess maybe it's better I didn't go into that because it does get very technical. So again, cost manipulation. Let's talk about that first. This Helmeppo card and this Rob Lucci card are very, very special together. Look what they can do. Helmeppo on play can give up to one of your opponent's characters -3 cost during this turn. So you're reducing the cost of their character, right? Rob Lucci, look what he does. On play, okay, remember we talked about with the trash, right? You may place 3 cards from your trash at the bottom of your deck in any order. That is the cost to do this effect. You have to return 3 cards from your trash to the bottom of your deck. Then you're going to be able to KO or destroy up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 2 or less, and up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 1 or less. So he can hit 2 different characters if you can place these 3 cards on the bottom of your deck. So if you can somehow combine Helmeppo with Lucci, you can hit some very large targets, like up to a 5 or a 4 cost with Helmeppo. So really strong stuff there. Now, all these cards in the trash, is this the only way you can interact, by returning them to the bottom of your deck for powerful effects? No. Look at this over here, guys. This card, Gecko Moria. Look at this effect, guys. On play, choose up to 1 character card with a cost of 4 or less. So that would be like a card like Lucci, 4 or less, right? We see that. Then, or excuse me, with a cost of 4 or less, and up to 1 character with a card with a cost of 2 or less from your trash. You're going to choose 2 cards, one that costs 4 or less, one that costs 2 or less. And you're going to play one of those cards and play the other one rested. So you're going to play 1 card active and 1 card rested. Very, very powerful effects straight from your trash without paying for their cost. You pay 8 for this character, and that develops a 9,000 power massive body, and then you can snag back these 2 characters from your trash if they're already in there and do their effects when they enter play. So you see how that can become very, very powerful using the trash to your advantage. Okay, we got one more color left, guys. Yellow. Let's talk about yellow. Yellow has a lot to do with life manipulation. This has to do with gaining life. I would call it regen and potentially even degeneration for your opponent's life, taking cards away from your opponent's life. There's also one other major theme within yellow. So red had rush, right? Yellow has triggers. Triggers are cards that come into play from your life. You normally would not be able to do that, but with yellow, you can do that very often. There's quite a few cards that can do this. And then there's sustain or attrition built into the whole yellow idea, because you're gaining life all the time, regenerating your life, so your games tend to go pretty long by just outlasting your opponent. It's not quite control in the traditional sense that you would use it in TCGs, but it is kind of like control, where you're just like you're extending the game out very long. So really cool stuff there. Let's go ahead and look at some examples. So when it comes to the leaders, let's check out Katakuri first. So remember, we're dealing with life manipulation, right? So Dawn ×1 when attacking. So you'll attach 1 Dawn to your leader and attack. Look it up to 1 card from the top of your or your opponent's life cards and place it at the top or bottom of the life cards. Then this leader gains plus 1,000 power during this battle. So what you're going to be able to do is look. So normally you would not be able to see your life cards or your opponent's life cards. But with a leader effect like this, you can look at the top life card of you or your opponent. Only one, though. Look at your life card or your opponent's life card, and then you can choose if it's a really strong card you don't want them to have, put it at the bottom of their life so they get it last. Then this this leader will gain plus 1,000 power during this battle. So that becomes very, very strong. And again, notice how we're dealing with life manipulation. Okay, Enel is a very technical leader effect, but we will read it over here on the left. when you're, excuse me, on your opponent's turn, once per turn, when your number of life cards becomes 0. So in other words, when you lose your last life, look what you can do. Add 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life cards, and then you'll trash a card from your hand to do this. Okay, and I won't get into all the technicalities right now, guys, but there are ways to even manipulate that effect to where you don't have to trash a card if you have no cards left in hand. It gets very technical, but just know this. Yellow has to do with life manipulation, right? Enel can gain a life every time he goes down to 0 once per turn on the opponent's turn when they go to attack, just by trashing a card from their hand. So very, very powerful effect there. And then Vegapunk will read as well. This is a new card from OP07. This leader cannot attack. Whoa, but he only has 2 life. Well, what's going on? Look what he can do, guys. Activate main once per turn. Pay 1. It only costs 1. Select up to 1 egghead type character card. Or excuse me, 1 egghead type card with a cost of 5 or less from your hand and play it. Or add it to the top of your life cards face up. Guys, at the time of me recording this video, gaining life is hard to come by. Only certain powerful effects can do that. This leader can gain life just by using the leader effect. Enel can technically gain life, but what if your opponent doesn't attack you when you're at 1 life? Then you don't get to gain life, right? Whereas Vegapunk does. Vegapunk just says, okay, if I have a card I can put on, into my life that's a legal target with this 5 cost or less, I can do it. So really powerful, very strong leader there with a lot of potential. Okay, so searchers and types for the yellow cards. Notice these cards, guys. They have this little text at the bottom. We haven't seen this yet, have we? Trigger, play this card. Trigger, trash 1 card from your hand to play this card. And then trigger, if your leader is Vegapunk, remember we were just talking about him, play this card. So what is a trigger? In the game of One Piece, leaders have life. Notice down here, this leader has 5 life at the bottom right corner. Katakuri has 5, Enel has 4, and Vegapunk has 2. These are face down cards at the top left of your playmat. And whenever you take damage from a leader or a character attacking into your leader, what will happen is when they attack, you will look at the card first, and if it has a trigger, you can actually play it from your life. I'm sorry if that's a little technical or confusing, but just know it is a very powerful effect. And in this case, look at this. The searchers in yellow can be played from your life. Very, very powerful effect there. So this one right here, it's only a 2 cost 2k with a 1k counter, but you can trigger play this card for free. Notice how the Parasparrow makes you trash a card to play the card, because it's a 3 cost 5,000 power character. It's much larger than Shura. But look what Shura does. On play, look at 5 cards from the top of your deck and reveal up to 1 Sky Island type card other than Shura and add it to your hand, then place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. Now check out Parasparrow over here. He has on KO. That means whenever this character is destroyed in battle, look at what happens. Look at the top 3 cards, or excuse me, look at 3 cards from the top of your deck and reveal up to 1 Big Mom Pirates type. Remember, that's what he is. Reveal up to 1 Big Mom Pirates type card and add it to your hand, then place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. Notice he can even search for himself because it doesn't say other than Parasparrow. And then last but not least, we have Lilith over here. She is put right into, remember the card we just looked at, Vegapunk? Remember, guys, this is a 5,000 power leader with 2 life, but he cannot attack. So because of that, they were able to give him a card like Lilith that is just extremely powerful. So normally what we can expect for a 3 cost 5k, we can see in Parasparrow, right? Well, look, this card's a 3 cost 5k as well, but you don't have to trash a card. You just have to have your leader be Vegapunk, and you can play the card for free. And this is not just a top 3 search like Parasparrow. This is a top 5 search. Very, very powerful effect there. Okay, and then last but not least, we will look at the examples for this. Remember what I said when it comes to regenerating life and degenerating your opponent's life. Look at this, guys. This is a very powerful card. 10 cost, 12,000 power character, Charlotte Linlin. You know, this is Big Mom, right? On play, if your leader has the Big Mom Pirates type, add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life cards. So you're going to gain a life, okay, right, when you play this card. Then trash up to 1 card from the top of your opponent's life cards. Okay, so now your opponent is going to lose 1 life. So when you play this character out, you gain a life if your leader is Big Mom Pirates type, and your opponent loses 1. Very, very powerful card there. And within the yellow card pool, because it's all about life manipulation, look at this card, Gadatsu. Whenever you play this card, you can KO up to 1 of your opponent's characters with a cost equal to or less than the number of your opponent's life cards. So even the KOing is based around this life. Okay, and then one more card I do want to show is this card Kikanojo. Notice this trigger. If your opponent has 3 or less life cards, you can just play this card for free. Very, very powerful. From your life, of course, from your life. And then on KO, whenever this card gets destroyed, if your opponent has 3 or less life cards, just like what it says with the trigger, add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life cards. Okay, so guys, that is it. That is what you can expect from all the yellow, or excuse me, from all the colors in this game. Like I said, I'll have everything timestamped, and these are just really quick overviews. If you have any further questions about these colors, please do not hesitate to ask down in the comment section below. Now, one more thing some people might be thinking, what about, are there multicolored leaders? I do want to mention that real quick. Yes, there are. Now, these are just 3 examples. You can pause these and read these effects if you want to. One major thing to look at when it comes to the multicolored leaders is typically they are 5,000 power, like you see up here at the top right for us, Zoro, Sanji, and then Luffy. They're typically 5,000 power like an average leader, but they usually only have 4 life. See how this has a 4 life? Like I said, typically speaking, the average leader has 5,000 power and 5 life if it's a monocolor. But for dual colors, the way that Bandai balances the game is they have 5,000 power and a 4 life leader instead of 5. And then there are even cards like this Luffy over here that are very special. Look, he has 6,000 power, okay? And then 3 life. He goes down even further than that. Okay, so there are multicolored cards in the game as well. So again, just to give one more quick overview, guys, I just want to go through this really quickly with you. Yellow is about life manipulation. Black is about cost manipulation. Purple is about dawn manipulation. Blue is about deck manipulation. Green is about status, as in resting and standing characters, the state of a card, manipulation. And last but not least, red is about power manipulation. These are just generic ideas I'm trying to express, guys, just so you have an idea of what you want to get into. Red is known for having rush and aggression. Green is known for having a little bit of stun and control and tempo. But really, I shouldn't say control. It's more like a mid-range type of feel, but there is some control built into it. Blue has this way to manipulate the deck, draw cards, bouncing characters, and a lot of control built in. Purple has all of this interesting versatility where it can kind of borrow from other colors by reducing the dawn that it has for the turn, but it can also ramp dawn to get it back, okay? And it's all about ambition. I'm going to sacrifice my dawn to do something more powerful. And this is very much a, it's hard to explain this color, but it has a lot to do with ramping, okay? Then when you get over to black, it has all these combos and recursion. You're comboing your cost reduction with your KO based off of cost, and you're recurring things from your trash, so you're comboing the cards in your trash with your cards on the field. So a lot of comboing going on, and a lot of control, a lot of removal in black. And then lastly with yellow, it's all about outlasting your opponent. I'm just going to keep gaining life. I'm gonna manipulate my life, I'm going to regenerate life, and I'm just going to outlast you in that way. Okay, guys, and that is it. I hope you all did enjoy. Thank you so much for watching. Let me get my face back up here. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And if you have any questions, any comments, any suggestions, please put them down in the comment section below. One Piece is growing very quickly, and I love having something there for the new players to be able to get into the game and pick out what they want to play and really have a good idea before they dedicate. One more thing I want to mention is down in the comment section below, I will have a link to one of my other videos talking about how to get set up on the sim. If you're a newer player, there is a free way to play One Piece TCG on a simulator right now. And that can really help you learn how to play the game if you're a newer player without having to put too much money into the game up front, if that makes sense, okay? I'll try to have as many links as I can down below to help out the new players. All right, guys, I hope you all enjoyed that. Please do not forget to like and subscribe if you have not already. And until next time, guys, peace.